Yeah, so let's see. Do we have... Okay, so it's all set up with... It's all set up, ready to go, I guess. Oh, and the wipers work now.
Yep,
I wonder if the wipers work on this version, but not the smaller version.
on the 15. They should be working on the 15 too.
On I think, is it the 10 and the 30? Or...
10 and 30. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Both your your pneumatic feeds must be on.
Yeah.
Okay, so first thing is that I did notice your EPR.
Mm.
So you
Yeah.
were confused about the EPR. So that's the EPR rating computer.
Sure.
Sorry. Now, what you have right now, it's on static takeoff or not static.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a static takeoff. Sorry.
STA.
Static takeoff on the maximum climb. Now,
Yeah.
on static takeoff, it's going to show you the temperature, the outside temperature. It's on the middle. It says degrees Celsius, and
Okay.
it's going to be on minus on the top and plus on the bottom. What you're going to do is this is going to be only when temperatures are low. Static takeoff, you should be doing it on low temperatures only. That's mostly what they taught me on the simulators.
Okay.
Maximum climb, of course, you know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you turn the knob, the lower knob to the middle, it shall give you maximum cruise and the maximum continuous.
Yeah.
That's the maximum EPR ratings that you can use just as a reference to protect the engines from
Okay.
getting screwed up.
Right.
Now, there's another setting that should say FLTTO, which is flexible takeoff.
Yeah.
Now,
That's number 3.
that's your flex takeoff, which is going to be reduced power setting when your load is lower, obviously. In
Okay.
this case, I don't know what temperature is. You're close to
Uh,
three, minus four
minus 3.
degrees.
Yeah, minus 3.
So that's why you're having a rat rating of 2.06. So you're going to leave it on that, and then after you're taking off, what you're going to do is you take off V2 plus 10 up to 1,500 feet above the ground. You lower your nose to 8 or 7 degrees, and you start accelerating, and then removing your flaps accordingly. What you're going to do after is you're going to reduce your power to your maximum climb power. So you need to see again what's your maximum climb, and when you're on the air, it should read something like 2 point something, 1.90 something like that.
Right. So
Normally,
so basically, so on takeoff, depending on your weight loadout and the temperature, you would either use static takeoff or flex. Is that flex
flex take.
takeoff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
FLT. Okay. So you would either use position 1 or position 3 and the left hand side. So these diamonds, so essentially what you're saying is the computer will automatically move these diamonds up or down based on the
Yes.
temperature.
Yes.
Right. And then
That's how it works.
yeah, and then the diamond dictates the setting. So if I'm reading this right, let's use flex takeoff for an example.
Mm-hmm.
It's recommending that I use, so if this is 2.0 and that's 2.1, it would be
2.606.
2.6. So it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, so it's 2.06. Yeah, okay. That makes sense. So that's the flex takeoff. So that would be 2. Okay, 2.2, 2.0, 2.1. That would be, I guess the yellow thing only goes in between
Okay, good you
tenths,
tell me, because
but
that's something I'm gonna tell him to
yeah,
fix.
though they only go to tenths. But I would basically set the yellow markers to
Mm-hmm.
2.6, and then I would bring up the engines to that flex temp for takeoff. So could you explain a little bit more? Just go over that again for me. When to use temp or flex takeoff versus static takeoff?
Flex is when you have a very low load and high temperatures.
Okay.
That's, for example, when you're flying in Mexico, it's a high elevation airport. It's 7,340 feet. So you would use a flex takeoff, a reduced payload, because you cannot take out the
Sure.
plane in full. And static takeoff, well, you can use it for example, here it would be okay
Okay.
because it's allowed, but that's the maximum. Don't go above that
So
because it's just going.
right. So do not ever go above static takeoff EPR
Yeah,
setting. Yeah.
yeah.
And
That's
then
that's your
yeah,
maximum. That would be if you check the type certificate data sheet for the JTAD.
sure.
It would tell you, or it would show you what's the I think it would show you the maximum allowable EPR. So yeah, don't ever go above that. That's your maximum takeoff thrust at 100 full percent RPMs or
Mhm.
100, and it's for a maximum of 5 minutes, no
Okay.
more than that.
Right, right. So essentially that would only be for takeoff, and once you're above, let's say, 1,000 feet AGL, you would immediately be
Yeah,
coming back to MCL.
maximum climb. That's
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah. Okay. And then what's MCT again?
Maximum continuous. If you lose an engine, of course, you're going to have to cut one out and you're
Sure.
going to reduce the thrust of the other good engine to
Hmm.
maximum continuous. You never go above maximum continuous because you're going to bust the
Right. It
other
would
engine and
bust
then
out the
you're.
engine. Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay. Cool. Okay. So that's so. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually go into weather and just
Mm-hmm.
try to change the temperature.
Real time.
Just there we go. Actually, that works straight away. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
And the engine RPMs adjusted
Show
as
different
well.
settings. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. Right. So that works. I suppose, like you said, just getting the update to getting the dev to make those
Yeah. Yeah. That's really
individual.
necessary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's a helpful starting point for me to understand how that actually works.
Actually, the DC-8, some DC-8s, the
Mm-hmm.
later series from I think 55, 54 cargo and the Super 60s, they did have that kind of computer too.
Hmm.
And there is another kind that has buttons instead of the knob. It has buttons just like the MD-80, where it says
Okay.
take off flex, but they kept it like this.
Sure.
I guess that when he's taking, I think he's going to make the 40 and the 50 series of the DC-9, and
Okay.
those will have the other type of EPR computer. Now, that's one thing. Your pressurization. I see
Yes.
that you were having this.
Yes. That was my
So what
next
it
question.
does no. So
Uh,
what you're going to do is where the knob that says altitude, of course, you're going to set your altitude, your cruising altitude. Let's say that you're gonna fly up to 31,000 like we did
sure.
before to Frankfurt.
Yeah.
So you put it up, and I need to tell him to please make it a little bit faster because I have the versions for FS9 and FSX, and
Yeah.
it was a mess. You have to go and wait until the whole
I'm
thing it
I'm
moves.
holding and holding, holding, and then finally it's 24, 26. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
let's
it's
just
frustrating.
set it to. I'm going to take off while we talk here, and
Yeah.
you don't need to stick around for the whole thing. I'm just going to take off.
No, it's
So
okay.
what is the cabin climb? Was
The
I
cabin,
right in
yeah, the
setting
cabin
that?
climb. It's obviously for increasing your cabin altitude when
The rate
you're
of
when you,
change.
the rate of change.
Yeah.
It can be normally in the DC-9 we would do it at 700 feet per minute on climb and 300 feet per minute on descent.
Sure. Okay.
Now, you keep it that way. Now, what you're going to do is the ram air should be on.
Okay.
Just keep it on for departure. The cockpit temperature should be on auto, both dials up. The
Uh.
supplies the supplies should be on off, obviously, because if you're taking off when they are on or in auto, you're going to the gases, toxic gases can pour through the ducts to the cabin, and then you're going to have a really big problem. Now, the radio rack venturi, which is
Yes.
next to the up, that's only for turning on the fans on the radio rack so that
Hmm.
they don't heat up.
Sure.
Let me get the pad out.
Yeah.
you know cats. If they want to
Yeah.
go out, not they don't.
Cats do what they
So
want to do.
do yeah. And so the fan, you're just going to keep it on fan. It's on. That's just
Okay.
for keeping your radio rack
Okay.
cooled out. The anti-skids should be armed, unless you want to end up like
Right.
one idiot in Nairo, Mexico. The
Uh-huh.
asshole broke up a plane because
Oh,
he
wow.
forgot to put the anti-skid, and the plane skidded out of the runway. He took a couple of houses and a woman
Oh.
with their children.
Oh,
With their children.
yeah.
Now, I think you're ready. Out of
So,
that, it's fine.
so just explain again what you were saying. In order for the pressurization to work, on climb out, you recommend I keep the packs on auto?
On auto, yeah, it should go once you're on the air, move them to auto, and
Okay.
then on the then go to your pedestal, to the
Okay.
throttles. Now you see the B wheel.
The oh, the yellow one,
Yeah.
this one?
Uh-huh. Here's how this thing works. Now, in the DC-9, what we have is, and it's the same system on the DC-8. What we have here is, if you put this lever
Yeah.
down,
Yeah.
it will be on manual.
Okay.
So you wouldn't have to be the one in command to make the pressurization of the aircraft. The rate should go up or below or down according to the movement
Oh, I
the
see.
co-pilot. Exactly. If the indicator, that triangle, goes up, it means that the valve is open. It's opening, so it should be starting to pressurize.
Okay.
Now, if you keep the lever, the other lever,
Yeah.
go down. If you keep that lever up, totally up,
Yeah. That's as far up as it goes.
okay, then that should be on automatic.
Okay.
That should do the trick to keep the pressurization working.
So
That's the only thing you have to do. When
okay.
you're climbing out after takeoff, you pull that lever up,
Okay.
and the pressurization should be working.
Okay.
That's how it works.
So when I have this upwards, it
It's
doesn't
an auto.
it doesn't matter what setting this is set at. It just is auto.
Exactly.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
It will do its job automatically.
Okay. So I might just do a quick dodgy takeoff. I'm not going to worry about too much. I'm just
Mhm.
going to make sure that that's my trim. Trim is another thing we could talk about maybe, because I've
Yeah.
never been completely.
Okay, open your balance sheet.
Okay.
Open the
Before I take off.
Open the balance sheet.
Um,
And, let's see.
it's takeoff weight.
Takeoff
It's
weight and
20, 21, 20. It's 22 and a half.
exactly.
So that
22
would
and a
be
half.
20 between these two. Let's say if I
Mhm.
wanted to take flaps 15, it would be 4.
And that's the maximum.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
That's the maximum. The trim shall never really exceed from the green line.
Yes.
Never.
Yes. That makes sense to me. Okay. So if I put it just underneath 4, that should be okay. And then if I bring up my thrust to 2.06,
Mm-hmm.
my EPR up
Now,
to 2.06.
what I want to see while you're doing this is if the nose is going to elevate quickly.
Exactly.
That's what I want to see, because
Yeah.
if it's doing that, then he's gonna have to tune up the trim. He's going to have to tune up the trim because it should not. That's good.
Let's just leave it there. Okay. So thrust is set. Flaps. Oh, what did I say? Flaps 15. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Flaps set to 15. And shall I take off in the outside? Just
You can go in the cabin. You can go through the cabin. That's fine.
okay. Brakes released. Oh no, lol. There we go. Brakes released.
Okay.
Okay. So what we're looking for, I didn't check what my V2 speed should be, but probably
you can
one.
rotate around 140 knots should be enough.
Okay. Strong left-hand crosswind here. Feels like.
Mm-hmm. Keep your nose down in the meantime. Try to
Oh,
keep it
yep.
down.
Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the nose up already.
Okay.
Around 100 knots.
I'm gonna tell
Yeah,
him because
the nose comes up. The nose comes up around 100 knots already. Yeah.
Okay.
So
climb.
that's about 150.
Okay,
So
climb.
off we go there. Positive rate.
1,000. Gear up.
Gear up.
Keep your
700
climb
feet.
around no more than 15 degrees up.
Okay.
1,500 feet, and then you start putting your nose down to keep the V2 plus 10.
Sure. Let me just get my autopilot on. I'm just gonna keep wings level at the moment, and let's just head down to 1,500, about 1,700 feet per minute. And as we stabilize, hopefully we can then pull this back to maximum climb, which is 2.2. No, two. That's between 2.1 and 2.2.
Now turn it to the other setting. Oh, it's the same. Maximum climb. It's the same. Okay, keep it where you have it right now, 1.95. That should be enough because there's going to be changes in the variation of
Sure.
temperature with the engine. So
Right.
your anti-icing is
Yeah.
on, I hope.
So let's go windshield. And I could turn on, I think I should probably turn on these because...
Engines and the airfoils, yeah.
Yeah.
The
Oh, and the
meters,
Peter. Yeah.
Captain. Keep it on captain.
Yeah.
And it should be working in the moment. Now,
Yeah.
let's see. Start putting your flaps up.
Oh, yes. Completely forgot. Okay.
That's now,
so
when you're hitting 250 knots, I want you to make a climb based on your pitch. Now.
IAS hold. Yep. There we go.
Yeah.
This worked for me quite nicely the other time, so I think that should be fine.
That's how we usually do it.
Okay.
Both in the real simulator, and that's how the real DC-9 pilots do it, actually.
Okay.
What you would do is, normally these guys were a little bit more used to hand flying, so what they normally did was climb up to cruise altitude by hand, using only a thrust input. And what some of them did like to do is turning off the lateral control servos so that they could make the turn themselves with the yoke.
Okay.
But that was up to their personal taste.
Sure. Okay, so coming up through 8,000, 9,000 feet, and okay, I can see. Yeah. There's the pressure differential already. Actually, no. The cabin is still at 0, but it should be once we pass 10,000. I think that it begins to. There's 10,000.
Between 10 and 14,000, it should be working. But if the cabin differential pressure is already working,
yeah,
it shows.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you can see that rising very, very noticeably. So the cabin itself should be rising at about 700 feet per minute when we. I really want to see that needle begin to move at this point, but I suppose we are still climbing at 4,000 feet per minute. So actually, it's quite hard for the cabin to keep up with us at that point. We could
listen. What I do remember, because one of my uncles was captain on the 727 in Mexicana Airlines. There was actually a very noticeable differences in the pressurization times for the DC-9 and the 727.
Okay.
The 727, it would take a very long time.
Oh, I do not have the air.
Turn it to auto.
Yeah, that's probably my problem.
It's okay. In the 727, it would take quite a bit of a long time to pressurize. So a lot of times for very short flights, like to Acapulco or something like that, passengers would end up with headaches.
Oh, right.
So,
yeah.
And in the DC-9, you really never had this problem because the plane was really made for this kind of operations. So
sure.
it would be quite different.
Yeah. Right.
Now, your speed, let's say you want 30,000 climb, reduce your climb rate, it's vertical speed, let's say 2,000 feet per minute, and accelerate to 290 knots.
Okay.
290, and then you set it back to IAS hold.
Sure. So I'm not seeing that cabin altitude needle moving quite yet.
But And what altitude are you right now?
I am 17 going 18 very quickly.
It's working then. It's working because at this point, the you should have a warning. You should already be
Yeah,
getting a
yeah.
warning
I
if
remember
you're not.
last video, I was getting the pressure warning as soon as I went above 10,000 feet. I immediately got the warning, so that makes
Okay,
sense.
you're doing fine. The
But
only
oh,
thing
I
here is
see,
on
I see. So I see the differential has just gone above
7.
7, and I can see the needle is just beginning to move now. Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Excellent. I'm so happy to thank you for showing me that, because
No, that's fine.
it basically means that there's one less thing that I think is a bug at this point, and for the dev also to see things working is great. So
I'm gonna tell him some little things that I am
little things,
noticing.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
What
you're
other
fine.
things? The wipers work in this version. Last time I was trying the wipers. Oh no, now they're not working. Oh, this is
In flight,
interesting.
they don't.
So
Flight
they don't work. They only work on the ground then.
and the ground, and after and when you're below a certain speed, you cannot operate them.
Wow. Okay, that makes complete sense, because in the previous video I was trying to make them work and was thought it was still
And
bugged, but
the operation is very simple. Once you don't need them, you just put them to off.
yeah.
And then if they stay in the middle of the windshield, then you just turn it to park, and
Yeah.
then it will set them back to their
Yeah,
proper position.
yeah. The same as the de Havilland Dash 8 basically.
Mm-hmm.
What else do I think? What did you think of the icing modeling on this aircraft, where the icing seems to affect the aircraft very, very strongly? I know a lot of
Yeah.
other add-ons don't have as much serious icing as this. Is
Uh,
what do you feel is?
that's that's realistic. That's realistic. Actually, the problem with the DC-9 is, while it is a very trustworthy aircraft, but
Mm,
it does have a lot of problems with icing. In fact, there were two very bad accidents with the DC-9 and icing. There was a Continental DC-9, a Series 15, that crashed in Denver around 1982, I think.
right.
And the icing on the wings was actually what made them crash. And it's the same for the Fokker 28.
Yes.
It has very sensitive wings when it comes
Yeah.
to ice.
Yeah, I've been researching that. Yeah, I'm quite familiar with the F-28's icing issues. Yeah, okay.
I did flew once on an F-28 around 1985, 86, when I visited Peru. So
Okay.
Aero Peru still had a Fokker 28.
Mm.
Now you need to reduce. Remember that these ratings are just for reference. So just pull back on the thrust a little bit.
Yeah.
Maximum climb,
So maximum climb
maximum
is
cruise.
2 point
You're okay at
2.2.
this point.
Yeah. So why does
2 point
the EPR go up
moves.
when you go up in altitude? I would have expected, if it's a pressure thing, I would have expected the pressure to go down as you go up. But
That's
that's
something I'm
opposite.
gonna. That's
Yeah.
gonna something I'm gonna ask Mauricio, because I saw it in another videos. It should not go up like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, I tell you, I'm using the same thing in P3D and
Mhm.
even an FS9, and it doesn't do that.
Okay.
And if it does, it's very minimal. It's like 1 or 2 degrees
Okay.
or notches on the
Sure.
EPR, but
Right.
it's still working, it's still doing fine. So it's good to know, because
Yeah.
then I am sure that I can tell him that this is not okay.
Mm. So
Maximum.
this is, I read 2.1, 2.2. Where is 2.3? Oh, that's 2.285 actually. So
Mm-hmm.
oh, you can, is it basically meaning you cannot go any further?
Yeah, that's the maximum,
Yeah.
because that's minus 50 degrees Celsius, but you're not
Oh,
really going
right,
to
right,
have
right.
that temperature at this
Okay.
altitude.
So what is the orange numbers? There is white and
That's
then
when
there is
there
orange.
that's when there is a variation of temperatures. It's what they used. I don't remember the term on the Concorde. You know that it operated with with temperature deviations. Let me tell you their name. I have it
Okay.
here some. The ISA variations. You know
Okay.
that. You know what that is.
ISA
You know
indicate.
that
No, ISA.
when you there are certain variations in temperature. I forgot the term
Okay.
in English, but there's
Okay.
variations of temperature. For example, with the Concorde, if you were already cruising at, let's say, 50,000 feet,
Mm.
you could not go higher depending from your weight of the
Okay.
ISA. If the ISA was above the normal, it can be +5, +10. In this case, it goes up to +3.
Okay. Okay. Right. And so we're coming up to 28,000. That was a much faster climb than my climb in the previous video. So I'm wondering if that's based off of more
Yeah,
confident EPR settings. Maybe I had the
yeah.
engines throttled back because I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
sure what to set them at. But,
Yeah.
okay.
And for descent, what you would normally do also as a normal procedure, at least within Aeromexico, is what they also do their descent with power set. You keep it on IS hold,
Yeah,
and you start decelerating very slowly until you reach around 1,500 to 1,800 feet per minute of
sure.
descent.
Yeah.
And you make sure that your pressurization is going down. Now, here's the thing. When you're descending, you're going to put your altitude again to the altitude of the airplane, and then it will
Mm-hmm.
start depressurizing slowly.
Okay, so you set it to the landing QNH or
Mm-hmm.
altimeter. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so
And plus, you have
there's
you
1,000 feet
will
to go. I'll just
you
put
can
that
go
back to
already
that.
with the
Yeah,
wheel.
yeah. Okay, so we'll just level out and cruise, and then I will just have a look at setting the correct cruise power
Mm-hmm.
setting, and
But
then we don't. Yeah.
remember, there's one thing. Those PPR settings are just for reference. You can
Okay.
use them. It's fine. You're not going to have any problem with it. But in cruise, you're going to want to keep the speed of about Mach 0.76, which is the economical cruise.
Okay. So
So,
that looks like about 290 indicated.
and you're going to keep it that way or Mach 76.
Okay.
That's what we were using normally in the airline as a
Okay.
benchmark.
Okay. Okay. Just bringing that carefully
30,000.
down. I'm not on
Another.
standard QNH, but I'm not worrying
That's no
about that right
problem.
now. Okay.
That's
So
no problem.
there's 30,000.
Zero
So
set.
I'll let the aircraft level out, and I'll just have a look. So I would need to go to MCL.
Cruise.
No,
No, maximum cruise.
I'm at
That's your
MCR. Okay. And the
2.1.
and it's exactly on 2.1. Yeah. So actually, I could move these because that is a. So with the maximum cruise, if I'm setting it to the maximum cruise setting, will that always bring the cruise speed to the most efficient speed and hold it?
Yeah,
As in,
yeah, yeah. That would take it to Mach 0.82, I think Mach 0.83.
okay,
But that's your VMO. So try not to exceed that.
right,
And if you really want to cruise economically, then you have to reduce. In the DC-9, we would cruise around EPR setting of 1.78, 0.77 something.
okay, that's
So you
quite
don't.
low. Yeah,
It's enough.
1.70. Yeah, yeah, sure. So if I
1.75.
So I just
That's
throw it
fine.
throw it close to 1.8. So basically,
Yeah.
that for a long range efficient cruise, you'd want to leave it there.
And look
Okay.
at your fuel consumption. How many pounds per hour are you
Um,
consuming?
fuel
3,600
flow
pounds per hour.
13 1,300.
No,
Yeah.
but that's the consumption you're having right now.
Oh, I'm
Now, what
sorry.
you have.
Uh,
3,000. That's a fuel flow you have at the moment. That what you have already consumed on both engines. Now,
yes.
the what you're currently your fuel flow, it's 3,600
I see. I
pounds
see.
per minute,
It's the arrow that
pounds
you want
per
to
hour.
look at. Okay. Yep. And
Mm-hmm.
then in the middle is the how much you've used. Okay. So you're using just under 4,000 pounds an hour. So
Yeah,
what would you say is a really good efficient fuel burn in the DC-9 at cruise? Is that like between 3 to 4?
that would be about it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
In very short flights, you would really not go beyond max 70. Let's say if you go from Mexico City to Acapulco, which is no more than 200 nautical miles, it would be around max 70, and it would be less than 3,000 pounds because you're not really going that fast.
Right. Right. Okay.
One thing that I am going to tell Mauricio, and because that really nags me to a lot, is that when you're setting the vertical speed wheel on zero, it should be staying on zero because I don't want to be messing around with that
Yeah.
thing.
Well,
That's something.
what I did here recently, I think he wrote in his email to me is that w- his reasoning was when you set the VSI to 0, the aircraft is trying to hold 0, but if there's
Mm-hmm.
turbulence or a crosswind or something that
Yeah.
knocks the aircraft up or down slightly, the aircraft is not going to automatically know to descend back to where you had it originally. It will always
Yeah.
just hold. So really,
Zero.
I guess his reasoning was that any discrepancy here is based on outside factors, and you have to
Yes.
just come back and then, you know, put that down slightly, and then so you have to baby the altitude in cruise a little bit.
Yeah.
Would you say that's correct, or would you say that
Yeah.
as
It is. It
okay?
is. There's a couple of things that you need to know because this is not really explained. The Sperry autopilot.
Yeah.
There's different types of Sperries, or there were different types of Sperries in operation,
Hmm.
and some of them could actually keep the altitude hold. If you set it on a certain altitude, it would hold it, or it would try to hold it right there. It doesn't matter if it's zero or not. In this case, this has to be an earlier type of Sperry, which
Hmm.
also which is the same type of autopilot that DC-8 had,
Okay.
and they would keep it on based on the vertical speed so that it stays on zero. And yes, if there would be some turbulence or something, it would go a little bit up or down.
Hmm.
That was the logic on
Yeah. Okay. So that is accurate. Um. So what was it you were going to tell the developer then about this?
it. That when you put the line on zero, it should stay based on the altitude, not on the vertical speed, because it's more easy for the pilot or for the user to do it that way. But it's
Okay.
another type of Sperry.
Oh, okay.
I never told him that personally because I don't want to overwhelm him.
Yeah.
He's alone. He's just himself doing this, so I
Right.
don't want
Solo
to
dev.
overwhelm
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. Sure.
And but I from what I see, it's okay. Like it's really working right now. As
Yeah.
for the autopilot on your second video or on your first video, when you were not able to control on the autopilot, that happened because there's a setting. I don't know if in FS 2024 or 2020 you have an aircraft CFG file like you used to have in another sims. Now, there were some settings called pitch moment of inertia.
Okay.
What happened here is that when you set certain values for a plane on the CFG,
Mm-hmm.
the whole plane is going to have different movements. It will be more strong or less strong, or the autopilot would have less problems keeping it under control. What happened was that the moments of inertia that he may have had set initially were too high. So I told him, why you don't try setting them down? Because I have his versions for FS9 and FSX, and what I had to do is I had to manually reset those values
Okay.
to a lower setting.
Yeah.
And then he tried that, and then that's how it started to work. So the moments of inertia were too high. Now that's fixed.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Everything you have said is already been very helpful for me, and I'm sure other people. What I think I will try and do now is begin the descent.
Mm-hmm.
So you were saying what you would do is simply set it to IAS and then
Right
begin to slowly.
here, here's two things. Either you want to make a quick high-speed descent, or you want to make a normal descent. If you want the normal descent, you reduce your airspeed first to 270 knots.
Okay.
First, you reduce to 270, and when it's on 270, you switch to IS hold, and then the plane is going to start going down by itself. And then you try to keep a rate of descent of maximum 1,800, even 2,000 feet per minute. And
Okay.
then you start setting your altitude after for on the pressurization. That's something you can do afterwards.
Okay.
But
So
right
you
now,
you
just
initiate the descent first, and then you handle the pressurization as
yeah,
once it's managed. So if I'm just
yeah, because
throttled back,
yeah,
I'm
because let's say you're flying on VATSIM, and then the ATC tells you that you should start your descent, and if you start buggling with something else that it's not really that urgent, then you're going to have issues, and then
yeah,
the ATC may get icky or
yeah,
finicky or yeah.
sure.
So reduce and now start descent
Social.
IF
I
hold.
about now I'll go IAS hold,
Uh-huh.
and the
Mm-hmm.
aircraft. Yeah, the aircraft starts to nose down. Probably too much. I don't know. And now it's
It
all
will
about
start
keeping
like
it
that.
to 1,500
It's
feet.
okay.
Yeah,
It's okay. It will stabilize.
yeah.
It's a very docile plane. The DC-9 was very well known to be very docile, very forgiving in many locations. But
Mm.
right now, what
Oh, that's
you
good.
want to do is,
That's
yeah,
good. That's fine. Okay, so now we're in the descent. So now I would set my airplane altitude down to the
the
ground.
airport altitude.
Okay.
Uh-huh. And after that,
Oh,
your barometer
the,
correction, you
yeah,
will set it to the airport QNH.
sure. I can see the rate of change has now gone down to negative
Mm-hmm.
700 feet per minute, but then I would just adjust that to
If you can leave
um,
it in automatic, but normally it should be done around 300 to 500 feet per minute maximum.
sure.
That's to be the real value, I think.
So let's just say that the airport is 200 feet, and
Keep it on zero.
yeah, okay, and then I would bring this down, or ideally from 5 4 about 300 feet per minute in the
Uh-huh.
descent, and
Yeah,
just leave it like that.
yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay, and I suppose there was one other thing I just thought of. The introduction of flaps and gear on final approach. I did hear from someone I think who was a DC-9 pilot who said the the autopilot never handled the introduction of flaps and gear on an approach well.
Yeah, it was, yeah, it was, that was not its cup of tea.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
basically, pilots would usually fly the approach manually until the plane was fully configured for landing, at least,
yeah.
and then
And there's one thing.
mm,
Some planes, for example, there were some DC-9s I think that were equipped with Cat 3,
okay.
and not just they were equipped with Cat 3. Some of them had the head-up display.
Oh, right, yeah,
Some DC-9s had a head-up display. Even for the 1960s, it was very modern. It was
yeah.
a very modern
For
thing.
the 1960s, I
And
can imagine. Yeah.
yeah, and it had the capability to do a fully automated landing.
Wow.
And yeah, the introduction of flaps, it sometimes gave issues, but
Yeah.
normally it would have been able to handle it. That was because the Sperry type of autopilot that I did show you, it would have been a more modern version that was able to handle the variations of the calculation.
Mm,
So that's why it was a little bit more capable of doing that kind of landing.
sure.
But normally it would go by.
Yeah.
Once what I saw from your video in Frankfurt,
I'm a.
around 200.
You're going a little bit quiet. Are you? Let me
Yeah,
just see if I can
around
change.
210 knots before your final lecture. You would have your flaps at about 5 to 10. Gear still up, but flaps 5 to 10, no more than
Okay.
that. Yeah,
Sorry,
because
you're a bit quiet. I'm just looking to see if I could turn your volume up slightly.
okay.
How do I do that again?
Take your time.
I can't remember. I'm right clicking, but user settings.
How's about now?
No, I can't remember in Discord how to turn up your audio volume. I am right clicking on you, but that doesn't seem to be making any difference.
I rarely use those things.
I set your volume at the beginning of the conversation, and then now it seems to be. No, okay. Hmm.
Now is it better?
No. You're getting a bit quiet now. I'm just
Okay. Second.
add note apps for server. That's really weird. How am I? Oh, hide chat.
Uh,
Pop out.
Now
Ah,
should be my mic.
user volume. There we go. I got you.
Okay. Okay.
That's fine. Okay, thanks. Um,
Now,
so you were saying flaps. I think you were
so
saying something about flaps. Yeah.
when you're around 210, 200 and something knots, so no more than 220, I would say, because 230 to 230 knots is your maximum flap tension.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, yeah, 230 is your maximum. So you could put down your flaps down to 10 when you're about 210 knots
Okay.
approaching, so that it gives you a little bit extra.
Sure.
I don't. You already said that you stalled on approach one, right?
Oh yes. My first ever attempt at flying the DC-9. I think I put full flaps, and I just completely fell out of the sky. It was quite
Yeah.
hilarious because I've
Okay.
never.
So
Yeah.
here's the thing.
Yeah.
On the DC-9 and even on the DC-8, obviously this plane has power, so it's not like the 727 or the A320. These flaps are fully flat. So
Mm.
what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have obviously to apply a bit low power. Why? Because flaps 50 and even flaps 40 on this machine, it's a little bit risky. Flaps 40, flaps 50, it's more like for emergencies
Mm.
and not for anything. So
Okay.
you try to land as light as possible with the slowest speed possible, but always remember to keep on your VREF speed,
Yeah.
because if you don't, you're gonna have issues like several Aeromexico pilots had. One guy broke one DC-9 on almost a touchdown in Mexico City around 1997.
Right.
He didn't follow this procedure. He went way below the VREF. He put flaps 40, and the plane just went out of his hands and it slammed the ground hard, and they lost that plane.
Right.
And there are another two pilots. There's another guy that did the same with another DC-9 in Monterrey, in Mexico, around the late 1970s. And the plane, of course, it got wrecked. And
Right.
funny or surprisingly enough, they recovered that plane, and it became the longest DC-930 in the world. Why? Because when they repaired that plane, it had 1 centimeter extra added to its fuselage. So even, yeah.
Wow.
So things, small things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you need to be careful with your speed on final approach and
Sure.
try to keep on flaps 30. Flaps 40, it's only when if you're really confident. Once
Yes.
you're ready to go with confident with it, you can go flaps 40, even
So
flaps 50.
we've only got flaps 25 and flaps 40.
Mm, you should be able to have flaps 30, but
Okay.
okay. I'm gonna tell him to
Yeah.
consider that as an option because
Yeah.
that's too much.
Sure.
But flaps
Between.
speed, flaps 50 only if you're really in an emergency.
Right.
No
Right.
more than that.
Sure.
Actually, there was another YouTuber. I don't remember his name. I think he's an American. He did
Mm.
try flaps video and well, he pancaked himself on
Yeah.
the ground.
So
Now, as for the spoiler,
yes.
rudder hydraulic. Now, the
Okay.
spoilers, what you would do in the real plane is grab the lever,
Yeah.
and it has a lock, and pull back the lock with your finger, and you pull up the lever strong, and you pull it all the way back. That's when you land, and you want to send the spoilers on the ground. That's done
Okay.
manually.
Right.
When you're finished, once when you would finish your landing procedure and everything, you would just normally give it a slap on the top, and the lever would go down and settle the speed brake back to its position.
Okay.
Or or you would advance your throttles a little bit, and the speed brakes would set back to its place automatically.
Okay.
That's I think that's on the ND82. I'm not sure.
So I have a question. Are the flaps operational in the air? Oh, sorry, the spoilers.
They should be. Normally, in an emergency, they should be operational because if you're making an emergency descent, you should be able to deploy them.
Okay. So I'm clicking on them now. The only thing it's doing is arming them. It's not. I'm
Uh-huh.
not able to actually pull the spoilers back
Okay.
manually in the
Okay. Then
air.
I'm gonna tell
But
him that because
yeah,
in if you're doing an emergency descent, then you need to have
sure.
your spoilers. Okay.
Yeah,
Good. You tell
definitely.
me. Now the rudder hydraulic. Well,
Yes.
that's just for activating or deactivating the hydraulic control of the rudder. If you would have an anomaly or something.
Okay.
And so it's only for that. Now the crossfeed lever, there should be a crossfeed lever also next to the throttles on the
Is it?
right hand side. No, the
Oh,
left
yes,
hand
this
side.
one here. Yeah.
Now that's only going to do for balancing your fuel.
Sure.
If you would have less fuel on one lever in the tank on the right hand tank, you would use that only to balance. And
Okay.
one thing that should only be done in flight or when you're on the ground.
Yeah.
Never under any other condition.
Okay.
Once you're done, then you close that crossfeed valve.
Right.
As for the small trim levers, that the ones that you were showing me before, small ones, the yellow ones,
These ones. Yes.
that's the fine trim.
Oh,
What you
okay.
would do is that also helps the autopilot to keep a level flight.
Okay.
If you would have a variation of altitude, let's say 50 feet, 100 feet, or something like that, then you would use those small levers to help it level it up a little bit faster and more efficiently. But
Okay.
that's a fine trimming.
Mm. Okay. Okay. So
As
I'm in the descent at 14,000 feet, and I've just realized my cabin is now going up again. Differential is probably slowly coming down, but I can see my cabin is now down at 0, and but
try
it.
to reset. Try to reset your either it's resetting itself because it's still going down. The differential it's staying on 5,600. Try
Yeah.
to reset your valve lever below on the throttle console.
On the where?
The yellow lever. Try to
Oh,
reset it.
down and up.
Manual. Oh, and let's see how it's working now. Okay, it's still doing. It's still going down. I think. If
Yeah, it's
not,
slowly
the
going down. Yes, but the cabin rate of climb is going up. I don't understand that.
it shouldn't be doing that. Okay. Put it on descent. 300 feet on descent.
I
Can
can
it
I
go?
can go to 0, and that's at 0. But
Uh-huh.
I can't make the cabin climb
Then
go
it's doing it
down.
automatically.
Oh, okay.
If you're descending too slow, there may be situations where the automatic setting would reset it to climb a little bit so that you're not going or you're not depressurizing too
Okay,
quickly.
right.
But
But
it's still doing it.
interesting that it's brought the cabin down to 0 now.
Uh-huh. I'm gonna tell him that
Even
too
even
because
at
those are
above
things.
10,000 feet, the cabin
Hmm.
is at 0, which is 10 is that's basically 13,000 feet of differential pressure.
Yeah, and it shouldn't
I
be.
would expect the cabin to be roughly now. I would expect the cabin to be like 10,000, maybe,
Yeah.
or 8,000, something like that. But once it goes below 10,000 feet, that's breathable oxygen. So there's no reason to have
Hmm.
any pressure and any differential pressure at that point. So, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect the cabin to be 0 at this current altitude, I guess.
Good. Yeah.
Um,
I'm gonna tell him that because that should be a little bit
yeah,
that should be a little bit different.
yeah,
So good you
sure,
pointed that out.
sure. I'm just
And
bringing us into. I don't even know if the runway's long enough, but it there's a small field somewhere out here I see on Little Nav map, which I can plant the aircraft on the ground just to see the spoilers working, because there was a guy.
maybe Ottawa, maybe
Sorry.
Ottawa, Ottawa, the capital of Canada, Ottawa.
Oh, Ottawa.
You
Yeah, I'm north of one of the Great Lakes. I'm basically just going to throw the aircraft, for the sake of time.
uh-huh,
I'm going to throw the aircraft down onto a small runway
field.
I can see
Uh-huh.
that's nearby. So I'm just getting ready for that.
Okay.
But there was one guy. If you're taking notes, the another piece of feedback. I know one of the people watching the videos was saying, could the developer please make the heading hold, the heading bug? There's apparently key bindings in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. There's key bindings so that you can press keys on your keyboard to change the heading bug, right?
Uh-huh. So that it
And
works like with that too.
yeah, so that it works
Oh,
with
well,
a keyboard.
I can tell him.
Oh,
Yeah, I can tell him.
yeah, yeah.
That's not really a big problem.
It's not a
Those are very small
small things.
adjustments
Yeah,
that can be done. Uh-huh.
yeah. But the
So
guy
it's
asked
possible.
the guys asked me I think twice on my videos. So I thought if you're friends with the guy, just forward that along as well.
Yeah.
I do send him emails of most of the users' feedback that comes to me, but not everything all of the time. So, but yeah, okay. So we're coming down through 10,000 feet. I'm just going to make some turns here to try to get onto some form of an approach. This place has no ILS at all, but
And the
um,
turn rate, it's way beyond 30 degrees. That should not be. It
yeah,
should
that's
be
over
less
30 degrees now.
30. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that's too much.
should be maximum 30.
30. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Especially under the autopilot, so it shouldn't be more than that.
yeah,
Start reducing your speed. Put
yeah,
your descent on vertical speed mode,
yeah,
and reduce your speed to 230 knots.
yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise it's going to get quite.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's about 260, 250, 9,200 feet, and that's local barometric pressure 1025. So that's 240.
Look on
So
your pressurizing panel that
yeah,
it's you have the correct QNH
that is well
32.6.
32.6.
Mm-hmm.
That's as far as it will go. It doesn't go any higher than 28. Yeah, it doesn't go any higher than altimeter 280. Oh no, it does. Sorry, I'm going the wrong way.
That's okay.
32.6. It's about there. I'll leave it
Uh-huh.
there.
That'll be fine. Okay, you're 200 knots now, so
Yeah,
keep
it's
it on
just
that speed. That's
yeah.
fine. Keep it on that speed.
IAS on the down, going down on IAS. Okay, so for the thrust again,
For descent, you should keep it on maximum continuous, which would be the same as go around in this case. It
Okay.
would be the most recommended value for go around, unless you're in real emergency and then you wanted a full throttle thing. But maximum continuous, remember, that should be in for a go around. That's what it's recommended.
Okay, so that's about 2.1
Uh-huh.
for
Just in
maximum
case you
continuous.
really need it.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Just in case you need it. Otherwise, it's not going to be really necessary.
Okay.
Now,
Um,
I remember people were going nuts with that altitude hold switch that you see above the IAS
oh
indicator.
yeah,
People
yeah,
thinking that it was, oh,
yeah.
that's for altitude hold. No,
No,
that's for the
no,
fly
yeah,
director.
yeah. I've flown enough analog airliners to know that is not anything to do with altitude hold.
Hold.
Yeah, but so that just holds the
Mhm.
horizontal.
Reference.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, down through 7,000. I'm actually going to just go thrust idle for a little bit because I want to get down a
Hmm.
bit faster. So I have the speed brake armed
That's
now. That's
that's
armed.
perfect.
So also, what have we got? We've got reverse throttles, which I'm just going
Hmm.
to hold down the F2 key
Hmm.
to go into reverse. And we'll probably pick up some icing again. So let me just
Yeah.
pop those on. So at 200 knots, I could introduce flaps 10.
Yeah. You could put that now. Just one notch. That's
One
it.
notch, one notch, okay. It's actually one notch is going to 0.
Okay. Give it another.
That's now 5. So,
That'll be okay.
yeah,
Just slats around. Perfect.
yeah,
Yeah. No, that's fine. That'll be enough. And as you see, you brought out the flaps and the autopilot kept it. So
right,
it has to do a lot with your flight technique.
okay,
It's better to pull out your first notch of flaps and flats when you're actually on descent at a
right,
very slow speed. If you're
okay,
trying to pull them out at a higher speed, of course, you're going to end up floating like it happened on Dulles. When you were trying to land at Dulles, it started to float up a lot.
yeah,
So, but that's normal.
yeah,
That's
sure,
how the real thing would react.
sure. So now I've got a terrain warning. Um, is
The radio
there,
altimeter is active.
yeah, is there a way for me to mute that?
Cancel it.
Because it just continues to,
There should be a button that would cancel the ground
okay,
proximity warning system, but it doesn't, from what I see on this thing.
okay,
And it's the same problem now on FS9 and FSX. So that's
okay,
not your fault. That's him. That he has to do something to make that thing pipe down.
sure, okay.
180 knots. Put another notch for the flaps.
Flaps 15. I
That'll
could
be,
probably do gear down now, maybe.
yeah,
Okay, gear going down.
180, that's safe.
Now I'm introducing the power again, just to compensate.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm on a
Slowly.
base leg.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
And the autopilot is still keeping the plane with your flaps out, so you're not having these sudden jump ups and anything like
yeah.
that. If
So
you pull out
interestingly,
your,
I have the VSI set to minus 500. Oh, I suppose it is ever so slightly trying to hold that. It's
yeah,
minus three,
mm-hmm.
400. Okay, I'm going to make my final turn onto the final, which is another 90
Just
degrees turn to the
try
right.
to slow down a little bit. You're going at
Oh, yeah,
200
200 now.
knots.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm also very keen to see when the comet is gonna come out.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait
That
for that. Yeah.
if there's another kind of planes that I do love, and
Hmm.
Mauricio knows, it is British built aircraft. The don't even ask, the Britannia.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
like an
the
orgasm.
314, like the last person that did the 314 is FS 2004, I think. Was the last time
Uh,
anyone did a Britannia for flight sim.
yeah, Jens Christensen was he's Danish, and I still use that one. I made some modifications to the flight dynamics and everything because I have the flight manuals and the pilot notes, so I made a
Right.
modification for the dynamics and everything, and I'm still using it both in FS9 and FS6, and
Nice.
I do fly them. I fly them frequently, so
Nice.
on eval.
Yeah.
Of course, I do have to say there are some ATCs that are not very friendly with this kind of things. They do get very icky when they
Yeah.
see an aircraft that it's not
Happy with.
RNAV
Yeah.
RNAV capable. So either
Yeah.
they log out or they get very annoyed.
Yeah.
But it's not my problem. It's their problem. That's your lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
If they,
I
it's
agree.
as simple as giving you vectoring. If you
Yeah.
ask for vectors, it should not be a problem, but not even that.
Yeah. I
So you're
agree.
doing
I'm doing 160.
260. Okay, you're
160. I've
doing
got
fine.
flaps 25. I've looked. If I go from flaps 25, it goes straight to flaps 40 from
40.
25, you see?
Okay, yeah.
So I don't know if that's something the dev wants to change or
Flaps.
based off of the
I'm
maybe.
gonna comment on him. I'm
Yeah,
gonna comment on him, and then we'll see what he says
sure.
about it. But you
Sure.
should be able to have flaps 30 and
Yeah.
flaps 40. You're gonna pull them out about 5 nautical miles before touchdown.
Okay. Right. This is a
Yes,
long
40.
final, so we've still got time.
Yeah.
So
Now, as for your engine start, before I forget, at least the way that it should be or that it was done for real is that you would hold the engine start switch permanently until the engine goes up to 40% on the N2, and then you release the switch. Because if you release it before that, you're going in the real plane, you're going to break up the starting point. So you keep it on up to 40%. You release the start valve up.
the
And
start
then
valve being this here.
uh
Yeah.
the engine to start it. You keep it on until 40% N2, and then you release it.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
And the pneumatic valves, you start only one by one. So if you start right engine, that's the first one you're going to put up, and
Okay.
then left engine, then you turn on the next one.
Okay. Okay.
It's handling. It's handling.
Yeah, just small inputs.
And you're
Do you
still having
find
some icing.
yeah, even
Yeah.
with all of my anti-icing on, the icing is
It
still
should not be showing. It should not be showing that much at this point, but yeah,
yeah.
it can happen. Now, the way the anti-ice works on the DC-9 windshields, what they would have it's three plates of crystal, and in between the plates they would put I don't remember if it's silver or gold powder,
Okay.
and then it would be electrically heated.
Oh, I see.
It
Okay.
would take out. Now, if there would have been, or if there would be a very big change of temperature or very quick change,
Mhm.
that's when normally the windshield, the outer panel would crack. And then by
Okay.
procedure, you would have to reduce to 235 minutes, which was the
Right.
maximum allowed.
So in order to hold 160 knots with flaps and gear out, my EPR is okay. That's
Mm-hmm.
not too bad. That's 1.9.
1.8,
That's
1.8,
one
1.9,
1.9. That's
that's a
fine. Okay.
required.
Okay.
But that is because you're keeping a level flight right now. If
Yeah.
you
As
would
soon as
be on
I
on approach, it would be much lower, of
yeah.
course.
Sure. Okay. Maybe I misjudged how
So
long this final approach would be, but
yeah.
longer is better than shorter. At least I have time to configure everything and talk through things. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy right now. It's stable at 160 knots, and I'm not descending or climbing terribly much at the moment. One thing I was going to ask you, the flight modeling of the airframe. You see how I don't have to move the elevators hardly at all, and the nose does seem to bounce up and down quite a lot. Is that
Yeah,
S-
it's
i-
very the DC-9 would be very responsive on the elevators. Yeah,
Okay, that's good to know because felt that was very responsive, and I wondered if
it
that
is.
was realistic. Okay,
Yeah, it is. It
that's
is,
good.
and it should. It's the same thing on the MD-80.
Okay, okay, all right.
It's the very much the same thing. One thing is, I noticed that you were not very keen on the Mad Dog. I'm gonna tell you something. Try it. If
Okay,
you can handle the DC-9, you will
yeah.
be able to very easily handle the MD-80.
Well, it's
That's
not a question of being able to handle it. The reason that I've never really been as interested in the Madog is because it's the introduction of GPS, and I enjoy this so much
that's
more
why.
because it's pre GPS. It's just my
There was.
taste, I guess, but
No, it's okay. I don't like FMCs. I hate FMCs.
yeah,
They
yeah,
take away all the fun.
yeah,
Now,
yeah.
what I was going to tell is, well, at least in FS9 and FS the those versions of the Mad Dog, they did have the analog cockpit.
Okay,
So so I'm still using that very sometimes, not every time, but sometimes, and I do keep enjoying it. Of course, there is the not a GPS. It's the global navigation system, which was I think it was from Honeywell or the
okay,
Marconi or the
right,
Canadian Marconi system,
okay,
and it would be coupled with the mechanical HSI, and it would work the same way it would work with the inertial navigation system on
okay,
any other aircraft.
yeah,
So the needle of the HSI would go and work along with the Marconi system or with the INS, and
okay.
it would show you where you would have to go. I think the field is up there.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
I'm coming close to it here. It's
mm-hmm.
just here.
Okay.
So yeah, I suppose the icing is one of those things that may be hard to gauge if it's
Yeah,
realistic or not because I've got the icing turned on, but flying
it
down
should not
here,
be showing. It should be showing like this when you start using it, but after some time it would be heated properly, so this should not be
right?
showing like this.
So
But okay.
maybe icing is a small point for him to maybe review or something. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know.
But only in this on
Yeah.
the three frontal windows, I think
Okay.
that would be more than enough.
Right, so I have a 17 knot crosswind from the left, which is going to be interesting. But I'm on the center line now, pretty much, and I'm just
Reduce your speed
reduce
and flaps
speed
40.
and flaps 40. Okay.
Autopilot off.
Yeah. Oh, I'm completely off now. I've been off for a while.
Okay,
Um,
perfect.
okay, down through
Now,
160. Let's go flaps
when you're
40.
going to when you're going to touch down,
Yeah.
if you want to make it a more soft landing, just make very little adjustments with your trim.
Okay.
If you have a joke and you have the trim switches,
Yeah.
very little touches,
Okay.
one or two just to compensate, and it will give you a very smooth landing.
Okay. So my
And
final approach speed is about 150 right now, and I'm nose level, just coming
uh-huh.
in. This might be a bit rough, but I want to see the
That's okay.
spoilers come out, and I've armed them, so they should engage. 20, thrust idle. Right. Yes. Okay. They have
Yeah,
happened. And see look I'm not touching the elevators. The nose wheel. Look at that. That's still up.
yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Sometimes that's a preference for some pilots. They prefer to keep the nose up a little bit so that it slows down a little bit more.
Right.
There was one thing that I spoke with a retired captain from Aeromexico, and when he, for example, when he passed over to the DC-10, he was flying the DC-8 and then he went over to the DC-10,
Okay.
and his first flight on the DC-10 was to Tijuana,
Mm-hmm.
and the instructor told him to, when you're going to land, you're going to touch down, and you're going to keep your nose up. Why?
Okay.
Because they had the number engine two reverser was enough, not
Right.
operating,
Okay.
and he told him keep your nose up and don't let it go down on the ground until it's almost stopped. And he
Wow.
told him, if you keep the plane on your VREV speed at landing, it will slow down with its wheels, with the spoilers, and with your flaps out. You don't even need the reversers. So
Right.
those are more than anything. Those are just flying techniques.
Right.
It depends on the pilot. In this case, you can put your nose down a little bit,
Okay.
but it's
Okay.
okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for all of that information. You've given me and people watching this video lots of things to think
Oh,
about, and I really, really appreciate you coming on and helping us out here
oh,
because
no problem. One
um,
thing I do need to tell you, and this was something that Mauricio was fighting off with people in previous versions of the DC-9.
yeah,
For example, in the DC-9 15, if you noted, the 15 doesn't have slats. Now, obviously, due to dynamics, the airplane, if it doesn't have slats,
yeah,
your approach profile is going to be nose down.
yeah, yeah,
So obviously, if you don't have slats, the plane needs to compensate the approach, and it's going to be a nose down approach. What happened is that in some cases you would be able to make what they call three-pointer landings, which is
okay,
touching down with the three wheels with the
yeah,
three landing gears at the same time.
yeah,
That's beautiful.
mm-hmm,
If you can manage to do that,
yeah,
that's when you know you're getting the proper hand of the plane.
okay, yeah,
Try to practice it, see if it works,
sure,
and
yeah.
that's
So
normally how it
so
goes.
that's on the well. You mentioned the 15 because we've only got the 10 and the 30 at the moment, and you were saying that I suppose once he's ironed out things with this release,
Hmm.
you're saying he would then bring the 15 and the what is
The
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 other one?
fif the 15 is the same as the 10. The only difference is the differences between the DC-9 10 and the 15 is the capacity of fuel and
Okay,
passengers.
okay, right,
But it can be simulated with what you have here right now.
yeah.
And if it has the central tank, then that's a 15's configuration. If
So
you
we
want a
we
10
do have
configuration,
we do have a central tank on this.
okay,
So
then that would be the 15, and this is the 30. It's both planes are based out on the. I can tell you, both of them are based out of Aeromexico manuals and the Continental Airlines because that's what he has,
okay,
and he has some of my manuals, so I
okay,
actually need to ask them back. But
okay,
yeah,
nice.
but that's what it is, and there's another version that he may. I think he's going to bring out too. That's the 20, the 40, and the 50. The 20, it's the same as the 10, but with slats.
Okay,
There is a video on YouTube about a Scandinavian Airlines DC-921 on takeoff on an air show. You want to see that so that you can see the rate of climb of that plane. It's
right,
impressive.
right.
It's a very old plane, very small, but it has a very interesting rate of climb, and all because it has slats, so it makes it
Huh.
out a super DC-9.
Wow. Okay. Well, um, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Eduardo, for all that information. I'm gonna definitely be watching this video over again a couple of times myself just to absorb all of the things you've said. And I think with a few more tweaks, he's probably ready to make
To
this
launch,
an actual official patch for people, which is going to be exciting. So yeah.
what I'm going to be doing is, uh, like I said, I'm going to be asking him to send back my manuals because I
Mm,
have the speed charts and everything there.
sure.
So I'm signing up with a virtual airline with
Mm-hmm.
Aeromexico, and
Nice.
what I'm gonna do is I'm going to release the information
Hmm.
not just for the VA, but also I think for the public in general, so that they may have a more
Yeah. Yeah.
easy time
Yeah.
getting used to this plane.
Definitely. Yeah.
Mainly because it really pissed me off that another YouTubers were just like baboons throwing their feces out
Yeah,
on the internet.
yeah. I mean, I think the problem is that is that the community has releases like Aeroplane Heaven and Coronado that don't have that much system depth. And then when someone releases an aircraft like this, they jump on it and they go, "Oh, it's crap! It doesn't do this. It doesn't do that." Well, to be fair, there were things that needed to be fixed on release,
Yeah, yeah,
but at the same
of course.
time, I think the community is so charged with polar opposite views. They love to kind of go to either one extreme or the other immediately, And so I
Yeah,
think as soon as the dev, I emailed the dev and I said, look, I love vintage aircraft in the sim. I would like, if you are happy, I am happy and willing to test and to review updates and everything. And he reached out and started sending me test builds, and so here we are. And I'm happy just to impartially review, what I'm given, and I can definitely say the test builds he's been giving me. This is the third now. They're getting significantly better every time, and I look forward to the first official patch. So yeah,
yeah. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send you some charts right here. There's one chart in specific, and I recommend you to try this. It's an
mm,
approach that was done around in the 1960s for the
okay,
DC-8.
hmm,
It was a manual approach that was done for the city of Tijuana in Mexico. It's next
okay,
to San Diego.
sure,
And it was a very specific approach made for the DC-8. At that time, the Tijuana airport was not really that well equipped. It was very, very ill equipped for receiving jet aircraft, but
mm,
it was a very interesting approach. It had
okay,
to be done by hand
yeah,
normally.
okay,
So I'm gonna send you that
yeah,
and try to
definitely,
practice it. Try to
sure,
practice it only by hand
sure, will
and
do.
see how it goes for you.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna tell Mauricio what we found
Sure,
out right
definitely,
now.
definitely. And I'd like to say, actually, Eduardo, I love flying. It's not just about flying a vintage aircraft, but it's about flying it with the correct livery on a historic route. So, just from your comments about Aeromexico, tells me you know probably a lot more about Aeromexico vintage route system, route
Hmm.
network with the DC-9 than most people. I would definitely be
I
very
flew them all.
interested. Right, right. I
I
would.
flew them all when I was a kid.
Right, right.
I flew their DC-8, the DC-9s, the
Nice,
DC-10, the
nice.
MD-80.
Wow. Well, I would love to get some historic route information for this aircraft in the Aeromexico
Oh,
livery and actually do them in the sim.
I told him already. I told him already. I want the repaints for these ones,
Yeah,
both for the 15 and the 32.
yeah,
Especially the 15 with the first library, the Aeronaves de Mexico library, which is the
yeah,
one that came out from factory.
yeah.
And that's a special livery because it has the orange that the airline was using at that time. It
Right.
was not just a normal orange, it was a fluorescent type of orange that it would even glow on the night if there was a light reflected on it.
Wow.
Of course, I don't know if that can be simulated
Yeah.
actually or not, but
No.
I'm gonna tell him to try to replicate that. And yes, I
Sure.
have here I here have the operations manual from 1969, 1970, and
Wow.
here are all the flight numbers.
Yeah.
There's one flight in specific. Here I have it. It's flight 100. It
Uh huh.
would leave Mexico City and arrive to Phoenix in the United States. You would
Okay.
make stops in Guadalajara, Culiacan, Obregon City, Hermosillo, Tucson, and Phoenix. It's
Hmm.
a lot. But I'm gonna send you the scans of this, and
Yeah.
then you
Thank you.
can try that.
That
You can
that I'd
try
really
that
appreciate
yourself.
that. Thank you. If does the Aeromexico, my last question, does the Aeromexico virtual airline, do they have a lot of information that you're mentioning on the route system for this in the old days, or
I'm the one. I'm the one who's giving it to them.
okay,
I'm the one
you're the
who's
one
giving
who's
it to
giving it
them
to them?
because
Yeah.
Yeah, because the guys that are running it, they do have some information. Because they have contact with the somebody in the airline, but they don't have the from the vintage one. What
Okay.
happened is that the real Aeromexico went bankrupt in 1988,
Okay.
and it was under another name. The commercial name was Aeronaves de Mexico, which is airships of
Okay.
Mexico.
All right.
The Aeromexico that you see today, for example, arriving at Heathrow,
Mm.
it's another private version. It's
Okay.
the private continuation because the former airline was it belonged to the state.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was state owned, and
Yeah.
it went bankrupt in 1988. And after that, it somebody acquired everything,
Yeah.
and it became a private company.
Okay. Okay.
So they don't have all that information anymore. A lot of things were thrown out. A lot of things got lost.
Mm.
So it's very difficult to find all this memorabilia. I have been buying a lot of it when I can,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
very difficult because dealing with Mexican memorabilia, uh, it's very hard.
Yeah.
People don't really want to give it up that much, or
Right.
there are just people who would just flat out tell you to go after yourself.
Yeah. Right. Sure. Well, thank you so much for your time,
Oh,
and the community thanks you as well. And I
you're
look
more
forward
than
to
welcome.
chatting more with you on Discord and looking at the charts you send and trying out some crazy approaches in the DC-9.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
you're more than welcome. I'm gonna be keeping an eye on YouTube, and
sure.
you need anything, leave me a message here
Will do. Will do.
on Discord,
Yeah,
and then we'll talk.
sure. Well, thank you very
Okay.
much, and I'll say good evening, and I'll start video editing and get this video up for the community. So, have a good
Oh,
evening, and
you're
I'll
more than
chat to you later.
welcome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.